Okay, so this is Brent on behalf of SPG. I'm speaking with Stephanie. Hello.
Hello.
So you're directing this one-act play, yes?
Yes. Yes, I am.
And could you give me the name of this one-act play?
It's a very short play by Kevin Brofsky titled Strawberry Fields.
Okay. And what genre would you say this play falls into? A comedy, drama? What genre would you say?
Certainly not a comedy. I would say that of the three plays being performed at the One Act Festival, this is probably the most dramatic of the three.
Can you tell me a little bit about it without spoiling it?
Yeah, so at its core, it takes place in a diner in a small middle of nowhere town in Florida. And it shows a conversation between two women in this diner as they discuss the potential of having an interview later on. And through their conversation, we learn that both of them have lost a child in a very violent and traumatic way because they were both victims of hate-based violence.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't sound like a comedy at all.
Not very feel-good, no.
No. You said this one may perhaps be the most dramatic, or at least it is very dramatic. What about it, this play exactly do you think will come off as very dramatic? Is there anything that would surprise people or affect people?
I think, so this play was originally written in 1998, but in the way that I'm staging it, have tried to modernize it a little bit more and set it on a present day backdrop. It's not a shock. We're living in a time that is very divisive and very frightening. So I think maybe that might be something that surprises people, especially if they're coming in having read the text, is that modern spin on it that we're incorporating.
So this is your own unique spin then, kind of updating it, modernizing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, would you mind telling us a little bit about the spin here? Yeah,
so one thing that has been at the forefront of my mind for almost 150 days now is the ongoing atrocities that are being committed in Palestine. And when I was asked to direct a piece in the One Act Festival, this one made me think of some of the things that I've been noticing, not only not necessarily with what's happening in that part of the world, but more so the response that I've been noticing here in Canada. People who choose to advocate for Palestine put themselves in a position of vulnerability and of risk, because there are some people who are very pro-Zionist and view those efforts of advocacy as, an avenue for prosecuting that person. I suppose that's a bit of a modern spin that I'm putting on it.
It'd be fair to say that this play will act as a bit of a statement.
Yes, yeah. It is my hope that it kind of speaks to the importance of community support, especially in terms of protesting. One of the things that touched me particularly is that as these women are having a conversation, there's this underlying theme of, they're mourning their children, obviously, and they desperately want to talk about it with the world, but there's this fear that if they do that, it will reflect badly on them and on their reputation. So,
see, sounds rather thought-provoking.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, I found it to be very topical.
Okay. When your audience leaves after seeing this show, what do you hope is running through their minds? What do you hope they think? What do you hope they feel after having watched this show?
In a way, I hope that it maybe inspires people to seek education. It maybe inspires people to reflect on the importance of having a large community of people supporting protesters and people who kind of like activists who put their safety on the line. Yeah. My biggest hope is that it maybe prompts people to look into what is happening in parts of the world, because I think that it can be very easy to say something like, oh, I'm just one person. What kind of change could I enact? I don't follow the news,
Right. Okay. Now, I usually save this question for a little bit later in the interview, but I'd like to ask it now since I'm genuinely curious at this moment. So the cast, can you tell me a little bit about the cast, the kinds of people performing in this play and what they bring to these roles?
It's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of just demographic, and also in terms of like previous theater experience. So it's 5 people in our cast, 3 of whom have speaking roles, and then 2 who are acting more so as a chorus and who are coming in interpretive movement roles. They're all very kind. We've been able to foster a lot of really great discussions as we've been doing some text work. And as a director, it's been a little interesting to like navigate the differences in terms of previous theater experience. Because on one hand, there's like people who have like years and years of theater experience. Right. So you're able to give them a bit more liberty. And then on the other hand, one of our actresses this is her first time performing. So it's treating that with a little bit more sensitivity and trying to offer her as much support as we can, especially with a piece that is very emotionally heavy.
Understood. I remember my first stage act for SPG when I was a newbie. I couldn't understand stage direction. It's like
that's it.
Audience.
Yeah, and I've even caught myself, right, where I think once you've been doing anything for a certain amount of time, you kind of take for granted that there's like base knowledge that people might not be aware of. So yeah, even just like I forgot to explain to her that like text in italics is stage directions, and I was like, oh, I should probably yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I would actually love to ask you more about this, but we just don't have the time. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about you. How much directing experience do you have?
I have pretty much none.
Okay.
So yeah, most of my previous experience in theater has been as a performer and to a lesser degree as a playwright. I studied directing a little bit when I was doing my undergrad. I studied at the Francophone program at Laurentian University in theater, but that was really it. So yeah, it's been a big learning curve, and I've tried to just like model my approach to like the great directors that I've had the privilege of working with as a performer. So yeah. But I do find myself sometimes like number one, not necessarily knowing like what I should be asking. I completely forgot that like, oh yeah, as director, I need to like think about things like costuming, and so a big learning curve, but it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, I suppose it's not as simple as just tell everybody what to do and everything will work out, huh?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
All right. I suppose we should keep that one in mind. What made you then sign up for this directorial debut?
During like around COVID. So as I said, I had been involved in theater pretty regularly during high school and during my undergrad. Around COVID, I decided to get a master's degree. So that plus the pandemic, I really took a big step back from theater, and I wasn't involved in it at all. Mm-hmm. And it was so important to me, growing up, that it was something that I really missed. And I realized that I wanted to get involved in it again. I was having a hard time finding performance opportunities, and I saw that SPG were looking for people who would potentially be interested in directing or stage managing. And I thought that could be an interesting way to kind of get back into it. So I let Mark know, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I think almost maybe 9 months later, I got an email from him, and I was like, oh wow. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you think you'd be interested in doing it again?
So yeah. I think that this One Act Festival is the perfect opportunity to try this out, because like a big part of it is also educational. We have an adjudicator that will be coming in and giving helpful tips. So I would be excited to take what I've learned and apply it to another directing attempt.
Okay, so your dream for the future, if you could choose anything, what would you hope to direct and why?
You know, I do really like classical theater a lot. I'm a big fan of Shakespeare, so maybe that would be something that I would want to take a crack at. I think I would need to like be very comfortable with the play that I pick, and otherwise, like as I said, I did most of my previous experience in French, having studied in the Francophone program. So maybe directing a Franco-Ontarian play would be really lovely.
Sounds like you like a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. You sound like a very hard worker, but on a personal note, what can we find you doing on your lazy days? What's the perfect lazy day for you?
On my lazy days, yeah, I'm a hard worker. So on the days when I have nothing to do, I do nothing. I could be like watching TV, reading, playing video games. It's just like good opportunity to, do nothing.
Yeah, it's the same with me. If I'm not working hard, I'm literally doing nothing at all. There's nothing in the middle here.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes like maybe like some family board games, that's also like something that I use to unwind.
Okay, I can't resist. It's not one of the questions, but I can't help myself. I'm a bit of a game nerd. Favorite video game?
Favorite video game? I really like the Horizon Zero Dawn ones. Those are fun. Right now, I'm really enjoying Baldur's Gate as someone who's also like a pretty big fan of D&D. That's been a lot of fun as well.
I've heard a lot of good things about Baldur's Gate. I've been with Horizon, very interested in the lore.
Yes.
That's what got me. It wasn't the gameplay, it was the lore. I loved it. I haven't gotten around to the sequel, but I hope I do someday. Okay, two last things, and then we'll conclude. What is SPG to you? Why volunteer with SPG?
So SPG to me, and correct me if I feel like it's one of the only like community theater organizations in town at this time. And like, apologies if I'm forgetting another community theater organization in Sudbury, but for me, SPG is like a very good organization that allows people who have a passion for theater, but who don't necessarily work in it professionally to still get involved in that passion and explore it. It's my first time working with them, and so far everyone has been very lovely.
Great. All right, well, final thing. The floor is yours. If there's anything you can say, what would you like to say?
Oh my God. Oh gosh, I wasn't expecting that one. I guess I would say, come out, see the shows, please enjoy it. There's a lot of things that are happening right now in the world that are difficult and that make us feel a lot of very real and natural emotions. But I think it's important that we allow ourselves to feel those emotions and that we don't avoid them. Because if we continue to avoid the way that some of the world events are making us feel, we won't be able to progress towards any kind of meaningful change.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you too.
Goodbye.